You know, as an adult, dealing with the fact that the police wouldn't take child sex abuse historic charges from me because my brother, Richard Hitchcock, built the military's computer system and now works for the Five Eyes. And he was paid by Jacinda Ardern to destroy me. And, you know, I've struggled my whole life with it. But I think the most traumatic part was how he treated me around my mother when I came out with the abuse in the last few years of her life. And he just totally removed her from my life. And even all I wanted to do, I think the most traumatic part of the whole thing, fuck, I lost it tonight over it. And there is going to be some fucking serious flooding, Mr. Luxon, from this brother of mine. And it was because, you know, I realised that all I wanted to do, Mr. Luxon, was go and see my mother's body. You know, I'd found out she had died the night before and where she was. And there was no way I could attend a funeral after these people were just harassing the hell out of me. He hired a guy named Nick Schmidt who built Ticketek to absolutely harass me when my mother was dying and died. And then when I got, you know, I said, I've got to go and see my mum to make sure, you know, she is dead. You know, it's a bit like, you know, you just need to know these things so it rests in your mind, because they had totally removed her from my life to steal all her money. And so I didn't even want it. It was supposed to go to my nieces, but they wanted to steal it off them. And when I got there at the funeral, this is all the videos on TikTok of me. And when I got there at the funeral, there he was, the guy who harassed the fuck out of me, Richard's harassment man. I don't know why. I never did anything to this guy, Nick Schmidt. But Nick Schmidt was the guy who built Ticketek, and he told, I mean, he's just cancer. He told my mother that my stepfather was dying and he only had 2 weeks to live, and it was his dying wish not to tell anyone. So when I got to my mother's funeral, and I only wanted to just see her dead body. I couldn't even go the day before because I didn't even know where she was. I just found out the night before where she actually was. And so I went there on the day of the funeral. And when I got there, there was no one there. You know, they could have just let me go and see my mum. You know, and this has to be the most traumatic part of all of the abuse from Richard Hitchcock. And that was this guy, Nick Schmidt, who had harassed me for the whole night, calling me all these names, telling me I better not play up at the funeral, and he was the security man and all this, and, you know, and he just called me a paedophile when I was the one that was abused by Richard. And he just kept all this shit up, like, oh, you know, your whole family fucking hates you, and your mother hated you to death, and all this crap, just harassment. And then when I finally got to see my mother, and all I wanted to do was walk through the door and go and see my mum, make sure she was dead, kiss her, say goodbye, and then leave. And who was sitting there right? He got up. Oh, you know, rah, rah, rah. I said, Nick, mate, get out of my face. And he was there. And Richard sent him in to harass me and wind me up so I'd get angry and leave and not attend the funeral. But I had already said I'm not going to this funeral, and I wasn't, you know, I was angry with Richard, but I wouldn't disrespect anyone. And so I went in there and I said goodbye to my mother, felt her coldness. And it was the most horriblest thing, because you could just tell that she was the most unloved person you've ever seen in your life, and that Richard just left her to rot. And, you know, she didn't even look comfortable. She had just been thrown in a box and a dress chucked on her, and there was no love. You know, it was the coldest shit I'd ever seen in my life. And, you know, that's the story of Richard Hitchcock and how he treated the guy he sexually abused from 5 years old to 11 when he just wanted to go and see his mother who had passed. And then I left, and then I was walking. You can see in the videos on TikTok, if you just search my name, you can see in the videos on TikTok, and I was walking away from the funeral, and he just pulls out the video camera and starts harassing me. And I just turned around to him and I said, Nick, he stuffed the minds of the whole neighborhood, and he is a paedophile, Nick. And he just yelled out, shush, people are arriving. And that right at that moment, Kayla arrived. And then I just turned around and yelled at him and said, you are not in control of me anymore. And you can see that on TikTok. But before that, I called Richard Hitchcock a paedophile. And I've got to say, you know, from being abused as a child and coming out with it to my mother and having them all, you know, remove me from her life, because it wasn't because of the abuse. It was because they wanted to steal her money. And the most traumatic thing I ever went through in my life was the fact that I just wanted to see my mother, and I was harassed the whole night before for days on end. I found out my mother had died because she walked past me, because I'm a prophet, and she said, hi, Terry. Whee! And she was off to see the Creator. And I was like, holy shit, my mother's died and she's just walked past me in another dimension, because I was currently having my DNA upgraded. And then I instantly went straight to my devices, and I had told Richard, I said to him, look, because he had been hacking me everywhere, and I'd just have all these new phone numbers after phone numbers and he would just hack me and destroy my life completely. And I didn't know it was him. And I said, look, Richard, I'm not using this phone number. I'm not using this email anymore. People keep hacking me. And he knew I said that to him, but he had sent to that email, didn't even, you know, because he just made my life hell, man. Ever since my mother started going down in hospital and he left the Defence Force, he just fucking destroyed me in any way he could. Destroyed my royalties, destroyed everything possible in my life. And, you know, because of who he is, I had all my rights removed. I went to the police and I told them, and, you know, the guy who threatened to set me up with rape, because I went to the police and I told them about this. I said, look, they've harassed the fuck out of me. They put my video online. I only wanted to go and see my mother, and they put a video online of me yelling at them at my mother's funeral, being scared away and harassed, and put my name on it and put, he is a fraudster. And the policeman, you know, he was told to just take a quick statement and get out, because they weren't going to take the complaint, obviously, because they were covering it all up because of who Richard was. But he was disgusted. He was like, you're kidding me, mate. They really did that. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to set you up for rape. And I was like, but this guy's here to harass me as well. But hang on a minute. He even thinks what they did was disgusting. And then a few days later, I saw the guy Nick in a red cop car. And the cop car came right up my ass in Palmerston North in a red cop car, Mr. Luxon. And he came right up my ass to show me that Nick was in the passenger seat and he was working with the police to destroy me. So I'd just like to say thank you, New Zealand Defence Force, for doing absolutely fucking nothing when a New Zealand citizen's rights have been just totally removed for him. So thanks a lot.